So let's just jump right in. We've all been there, right? Trying to get an AI to do something more than just a simple one-off task. But what if you could go way beyond that? What if you could build an entire system for collaborating with an AI, turning it from a simple tool into a genuine, intelligent partner? Well, today we're going to break down a really powerful blueprint for doing just that. And it comes from a kind of unexpected place. A music producer named TÂCHES, who brought a serious engineering mindset to a totally creative problem.
And it all starts right here, with this incredibly raw, super relatable frustration. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a musician, a coder, an artist, whatever, you know this feeling. You're just stuck. You feel like your tools are boxing you in, forcing you down the same old paths. This is the exact problem TÂCHES wanted to solve, not with some new gadget, but with a completely new way of working.
And this just nails the disconnect we've all felt. Over here on the left, you've got the big promise of AI, right? Effortless creation, instantly breaking through creative blocks. Sounds amazing. But then you have the reality of what he calls vibe coding. You know, just kind of talking to the AI and hoping for the best. And what do you get? Buggy code, endless, frustrating loops, and an AI that is completely, confidently convinced it did a great job, when in fact, it totally failed. It's in that gap where the old way of doing things just falls apart.
Okay, so that leads us to the million-dollar question. If just winging it and vibe coding is so unreliable, how in the world do you get a perfect result from an AI? Or at least a predictable, high-quality one? How do you actually bridge that huge gap between the promise and the messy reality?
Well, the answer is so simple it's almost genius. It's beautifully counterintuitive. You don't just bark an order at the AI. You actually work with the AI to figure out the best way to give it that order. You literally ask it how it wants to be asked. This tiny shift in thinking right here is the foundation for this entire system.
And this technique has a name. It's called meta-prompting. The whole idea is to change the relationship. You're shifting the AI from being a passive order taker, like a vending machine, to being an active reasoning partner. So before you even start the real work, you and the AI basically co-create the perfect game plan, using its own intelligence to structure the request in a way it's guaranteed to understand.
So what does that actually look like? Well, here it is. The output of a good meta-prompting session is this super structured instruction set. It uses these clear XML tags. You've got your objective, the context, or the why, the hard requirements, the constraints, and maybe the most important one of all, the success criteria. This isn't just a casual prompt anymore. It's a formal specification. It's a contract that tells the AI exactly what done looks like, removing all the guesswork.
Okay, so meta-prompting is amazing for getting one task right. It masters the dialogue. But how do you scale that? How do you stop yourself from solving the same problems over and over again? Well, that's where you codify that expertise into what are called reusable skills. This is how you level up from a single conversation to a real scalable system.
So what is a skill? Think of it like a packaged-up expert workflow. It's kind of like you're building your own personal API that the AI can use. Instead of having to reteach it how to do some complex, multi-step process every single time, you just codify that knowledge once into a skill. It's how you take all those little one-off fixes and that tribal knowledge in your head and turn it into a permanent, callable library that your AI partner can pull from whenever it needs to.
All right, now this is where things get really, really cool. I mean, this is next-level stuff. What if the system couldn't just use the knowledge you gave it, but it could also learn from its own mistakes and then upgrade itself? This is the ultimate upgrade. We're talking about building a self-healing partner.
Let's just walk through this self-healing loop step by step. First, a skill fails. Let's say it tries to use an old piece of an API that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so step 2, you and the AI work together in the chat and figure out a fix. Now here's the magic. Step 3, you just type a simple command, heal skill. The AI then goes back, analyzes the whole conversation, compares the original broken skill with the successful fix you two just came up with, and it rewrites its own instructions. And then, finally, the original skill file is permanently upgraded. The system has literally learned from its mistake, and that specific error will never, ever happen again. The system becomes anti-fragile.
So, okay, these individual pieces, meta-prompting, skills, the self-healing loop, they're all incredibly powerful on their own. But do they actually scale up to a big, complex project? Let's take a look at how this whole blueprint works in the real world, taking a project from just a vague idea all the way to a fully functional VST audio plugin.
You see, for these big, ambitious projects, the system relies on a super disciplined 4-phase protocol. This is the exact opposite of vibe coding. This is professional-grade engineering.
First, the AI goes out and does the research, building a whole knowledge base. Then, it uses that research to create a high-level technical blueprint. And third, this is so important, it breaks that entire blueprint down into a checklist of tiny, atomic, testable tasks. And finally, it gets to work, executing that checklist using a strict test-driven development cycle, where it writes a test that fails, then writes the code to make it pass, over and over.
And this disciplined approach, it just plain works. Why? Well, for one, it completely prevents the AI from hallucinating success, because every single step has to be verified with a test. It takes what would be a high-risk creative gamble and turns it into a low-risk engineering project. But honestly, the most important thing is how it changes your role. You're not just a prompter anymore, just feeding commands into a machine. You become the architect of this intelligent, self-improving system. And that matters, because it frees you up from all the tedious, low-level work and lets you focus on the big picture, the vision, the design, the why behind it all.
And that really brings us to the final big idea here. If the AI can become this expert builder, this tireless implementer, and your role shifts to being the architect, the visionary, well, that just unlocks a completely new world of creative potential. The question isn't just, what can I build anymore? The question becomes, what system can I design? So, what will you design?